Hello and welcome to the DXDAO BizDev call for Monday. What wasn't the date sharp? What was the date? Monday, 27th of June, 2022. Yeah, on the agenda, we don't have any new members introducing. We do have Augusto on the call, which is like, a rare occasion. Under exploring, we have, yeah, thank you for the applause. Under exploring, we have Orbis who are going to present us. Under DXbiz discussions, we have a bunch of people who came back from NYC Crypto Week with a few conferences and a few insights. And yeah, a bit of awareness about DXDAO using ENS and IPFS. I think maybe I'll touch on this. I'll touch on this one when we get to it. But yeah, that's that. And then some of the folks going to ETH CC in 2 weeks, I think, and planning on going for Hacker Soul in Bogota. So yeah, do you want to get started, Baptiste? You guys can have the stage.
Sure, amazing. Yeah, thank you. So maybe I can give a quick intro about Orbis and then talk about our upcoming launch to mainnet. But so basically what we are doing with Orbis is, so we launched the very first version in December last year, and basically what we're trying to do is build a sort of very performance decentralized social protocol, and because we don't think that blockchains are performant enough to build very low latency social experiences, we decided to build on something new and different, which is Ceramic. All right, so maybe I can share my screen a bit. Let me see how it works. Okay, cool. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. So basically, this is what Orbis looks like right now. So you can see that we're all it's a sort of mix between, right now it's a sort of mix between a Twitter feed and sort of Discord groups. But so basically the cool thing is that everything being shared on Orbis right now is a unique Ceramic stream, right? So Ceramic streams are sort of blockchain transaction hashes, but instead of it being like computation of a smart contract, it's actually every stream owns a specific JSON file, right? And the JSON file can be standardized with schemas, which is something that developers can use to make sure that every kind of data looks the same, sort of like ERC-721s and ERC-20s. And because everything is on Ceramic, the write times are super fast, right? So if I want to like this post, this like action is going to take a few hundreds of milliseconds, and you don't have to sign any message because the action is not being performed from your wallet, but it's being performed from your Ceramic decentralized identity, which is created with your wallet, right? So when I joined Orbis, I joined with my Ethereum wallet. My Ethereum wallet basically created a Ceramic identity, and then this Ceramic identity is being used to perform all of those write actions, right? So every reaction, every profile, every post is a Ceramic stream and can be accessed by anyone once the stream ID, right? So that was the very first version of Orbis. The issue that we had is that because Ceramic is so new, you don't necessarily have the same tooling that you have on top of blockchains, right? Right now, if you're building something on top of a blockchain, it's super easy to query it. You can use the graph, for example, and very easily build a subgraph to know exactly what's happening with your smart contracts. And you have very well-done explorers such as Etherscan or other competitors. But because Ceramic is so new, when we started, there wasn't necessarily all of those tooling. So Orbis was still a fully decentralized app, but it wasn't open to external developers, which didn't necessarily make it look like a fully decentralized social protocol. But this is basically what we are working on now for our launch on mainnet. So one issue that we solved is that I was saying that everything being shared on Orbis is a unique Ceramic stream. But if you don't know the exact stream IDs for all of the posts, you can't reconstruct the feed, right? If I give you exactly the stream ID, which is this thing for the post that I shared earlier, you are going to be able to know exactly the content that I shared. But if you don't know the stream IDs, you can't be aware of all of the posts that my decentralized identity shared. And so basically we've been working, during the past 2 months to be able to index and, be aware of everything that was happening on Ceramic, so that So we built this decentralized, this explorer for Ceramic, which is basically connected directly to the Ceramic network, and it's recording all of the streams that are being created, and you can explore it right now. But the very cool thing is that because we built this, if a developer is creating some Orbis content using another website as Orbis, we are not going to, our indexing system is not going to be aware of it, right? Whereas before it was impossible. And so this is going to unlock the new phase of Orbis, which is going to happen around July, when we're going to launch on mainnet, where basically we will be sharing the Orbis SDK that we are using to power the Orbis application, and any developer is going to be able to use it, both to create specific Orbis content, right? So developers are going to be able to query super simple functions to create a new post, create a new profile, or like a specific piece of content that was created. But they're also going to be able to query all of the content that is being shared on Orbis, right? So once we launch on mainnet and we open this Orbis SDK, again, it's going to happen in July, any developers is going to be able to build on top of Orbis, and they're going to be able to build things such as just replicate this like social feed experience, but they're also going to be able to build other stuff such as decentralized encrypted messages. It's something that is already available on Orbis and that works right now. But one thing that we also want to explore is people building decentralized discourse forums, for example, where instead of having all of the governance proposals be stored in a centralized database, everything could be stored on Ceramic, right? So that people can publicly verify, they can make sure that a specific identity shared something and that the email hasn't been hacked or things like this. So that's going to happen in December, and part of the launch is going to be both the migration to mainnet, because technically Orbis is still running on the Ceramic testnet right now, and the launch of the SDK and a sort of new user experience that will be launched.
Yeah, super cool. Wait, sorry, Baptiste, are you done?
Yeah, so maybe you have any, I just wanted to make sure to leave some time for some questions.
Yeah, anyone has any questions? I mean, I think this is super interesting. I think all the way back in the days of DAO Stack, we were talking about using, back then it was $3 for sort of like the profiling system within the DAO, and figuring out how to, back then we used, what's it called? It was like a reply thing called like a discourse or something.
Discuss.
Yeah, discuss. Yeah, which is like the most broken thing ever.
Yeah.
Omen
uses that in the
$3
markets
version.
and stuff. Yeah, $3.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so like this is super interesting, and I think yeah.
Maybe I can just give me 1 minute. I can give a sort of very early preview of so this is like a very, very early preview of what the mainnet experience is going to look like. But I just want to share this to show you a quick sharing something on Ceramic is. So here, for example, I logged in with my identity. To log in, I just add to, so I can try to do it again, right? So to connect, basically, I just sign a message here, right? So this is like a simple Ethereum message that Ceramic gets you to sign. Once you sign it, it generates a deed, which is your Ceramic identity on Ceramic. And then once you have your deed connected, you can actually write content, right? So for example, if I share this here, you can see how quickly it is. Like that, like when you see like the content has been actually shared. And if you go back to the Explorer here, you can see, so this is me, like you can see that the content was shared like almost immediately. There wasn't any transaction fees, and there wasn't any MetaMask pop-up, right? So that's a very cool thing, is that you can actually build like very, very performant, decentralized social applications on top of Ceramic. And not only social, but the social part is really what Orbis is focusing on. So you can have a very similar experience to what Web2 can offer, but in a fully decentralized way and fully composable, right? Because as I was saying before, like, developers can build like on top of Orbis, and they can build like classic social apps, but they can really build anything that they want, right? If someone wanted to build a sort of like, decentralized intercom competitor to have, like a chat box to chat with a support channel when you're visiting like an NFT marketplace or whatever. Like this could be built on top of Orbis, for example, and we are making it super easy using the SDK. But that's what's super exciting about Ceramic, I think, is that for sort of applications that require a lot of data usage in very performant way, I think it's really going to be the network that is going to take off and offer the same kind of composability that we had with DeFi or NFT, but in a social way. So you can have like Lego bricks.
How persistent the data is? I mean, how much time is going to be on the Ceramic network?
So basically, this on the Ceramic network, you have anyone can run a node, right? So for now, like the testnet network is like fully open to everyone. I think that mainnet nodes needs to be like whitelisted by Ceramic for now, but this is not going to last for long. And basically, what you need on Ceramic is you need to make sure that your node is hosting the data, and for now there isn't any incentives for other nodes to index your own content, right? So for example, let's say that Orbis is going to run our own mainnet node on Ceramic, and basically if only the Orbis node is hosting Orbis content, and at some point we decide to kill the Orbis node, then the content from Orbis is going to disappear. But the cool thing about Ceramic is that anyone could decide in a permissionless way to say, okay, I'm going to run a node to archive all of the content from Orbis. I know that personally we are going to have a few nodes doing it, maybe like 5 nodes archiving all of the Orbis content, and then in the future there is probably going to be incentives for other Ceramic nodes to discover and store your own content. So once you have this kind of network effect, then the data can live forever. But if no one is hosting your content, basically it dies. Which is also sort of like a feature, because if a piece of content is not being queried by anyone, like maybe it's losing some space in an empty node, but that's really how it's going to work.
Yeah, so very cool. But this, like, how do you see this, like in relation to sort of like a Lens protocol, which I guess has like many similarities and many like differences, but how do you see it?
So I think the vision is fairly similar, right? We both want to create like decentralized social graph. I think that we made some very different technical choices, right? They decided to build Lens on top of Polygon, which was the very first iteration, the very first proof of concept that we built with Orbis, but I ended up not releasing it because I thought that the user experience of having users sign a message for every action that they take is a very bad user experience, and I want Web3 social. If we want Web3 social to take off and to be adopted by hundreds of millions of people, you need a very similar experience. You need to give users a very similar experience what Web2 can offer. So that's why I think Ceramic is a way better architecture. And the other reason is that if you build on top of a blockchain, such as Polygon, for example, you need everyone to be using Polygon to grow your audience. Whereas if you build something on top of Ceramic, because your Ceramic identity can be created with any type of wallet, right? You could have users join Orbis with an Ethereum wallet, other users join Orbis with their Polygon wallet or with their Solana wallet or Polkadot or Cosmos wallet. And so you can have this fully cross-chain experience with people joining Orbis with different types of providers, which are really different type of wallets. But still everyone will be communicating together using the same network. Right, so a stream created on Ceramic from a decentralized identity that was created with Solana is going to look to be exactly the same as another stream created with an Ethereum user. And I think that's super powerful, right? Because if you want to onboard like tens of millions and hundreds of millions of people, I don't think that you can constrain to focusing only on one chain, especially like even you couldn't even reach the world crypto space, and the world crypto space is fairly small right now. So like, I think that's a big blocker. So basically the reasons why we pick Ceramic, or it's much more performant than a blockchain. It's free to use, right? There aren't any transaction fees to use Ceramic, which I think is super important. And you can have this cross-chain experience, which is not possible if you build something on top of Polygon.
Yeah, I mean, very cool. I think at the end of the day, technically, this is not using a blockchain, right? It's just using
it's using
the key
decentralized data network. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, using like the private public key that we use in Ethereum and probably like other blockchains, and then Ceramic, which is like I guess like a decentralized data network in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is Ceramic dependent on IPFS, right? Ceramic is IPFS, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So every stream on Ceramic can be built with different commits, right? So for example, let's say that I create a new post, it's going to create a new stream, and this stream is going to have one commit, and this commit is basically going to be representing an IPFS hash, which hosts the actual content. And then let's say that I share the post, but now I want to update it. So by updating the post, I create a new commit to this previous stream ID, and this new commit is going to be a new IPFS hash, but the stream ID is now going to point to the latest version of the commit. So every commits are IPFS. So it's this sort of like, super powerful layer on top of IPFS that gives you, the ability to have versioning, to have, a classic naming system with the stream IDs, and also to have this decentralized identity layer, which you don't have on top, when you build on top of IPFS.
Yeah. So Baptisto, this is interesting because this is like, it's happened in the Ethereum world, or in the blockchain world where you have like Lego blocks. And so Orbis is building on top of Ceramic, and Ceramic is building on top of IPFS. Yet IPFS is still this foundational layer that is basically run by like charitable people in the space that do this for free, which doesn't seem, and DXL already, we use IPFS and we are dependent on for our products, but like in the long run, if there's no like at the base layer, if it's not financially incentivized and like guaranteed that it's going to be there, it seems risky to build on top of that. Is the long-term plan that like eventually IPFS is you leverage Filecoin or some incentivized version of it as well?
So I think that would be a question for Ceramic, I think, and not necessarily for Orbis. The way Ceramic works is basically it will incentivize, the fact of building on top of IPFS, and especially us taking about content, right? So the raw experience of using IPFS as a developer has been very frustrating for me. So when I want to just push like a piece of content, such as an image, for example, let's say that you upload a profile picture to Orbis, I want it to be decentralized. So I'm not going to be using IPFS. I'm going to be using Arweave for this, which offers a very a better user experience versus IPFS. But for Ceramic, it's different, right? The IPFS layer is it's just being used to represent the actual storage of the data and give nodes the ability to find content and to host it on their node. But it's sort of like independent from the network itself, right? Like when you build on top of Ceramic, you don't even play with like the hashes itself, right? Everything, like Ceramic removed all of the issues for it. And the big issue when you build on top of IPFS is that pushing some content to IPFS is not necessarily trivial. You need to be running your own node locally, etc. And retrieving content from IPFS, or just finding some content that was shared by other users, is super, like, you can't necessarily do it. There is not any way to like organize this data. But with Ceramic, it makes it possible, right? So it's sort of like this very smart implementation built on top of IPFS that kind of solves, for me at least as a developer, all of the problem that you can have when you build on top of like IPFS as a raw experience. And so I don't think that it's going to be an issue in the future, but maybe I think that they could if they wanted to leverage other type of networks, such as maybe Arweave or Filecoin, maybe technically it would be possible, but that would be a question for Ceramic, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So I understand the Ceramic making your developer experience life easier, but like if Ceramic is built on top of IPFS, unless I'm missing something how it's technically working, like if IPFS isn't as solid as we think, like it's also a risk that Ceramic is dependent on IPFS, basically.
Yeah. I think that would be a better question for them.
I mean, like the way I kind of see this unfolding, right, is that just like you have kind of like in Web 2, you have managed services. like that could also be the case here, or like where you're using, let's say, Orbis, and you want someone to make sure that your content is stayed pinned, maybe on IPFS, maybe on Filecoin, maybe on Arweave, and you just pay for it, and then sort of like your data lives forever.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think the way of looking at it is that like IPFS is more the technology you're building other stuff on top of. It's not like this. It's not the same as Ethereum where you have the incentive and all the economic stuff built into that. It's maybe more of like a base technology. Like you can build other stuff on top of it. Like it's as secure as you make it. If you incentivize 10 people by giving them $10 every month to keep your data, then it's as good as anything else.
Yeah, I sort of
like
agree.
IPFS isn't like the fact that it's not natively incentivized isn't really a problem. It's more just like something that needs another solution built on top of it.
How about like protocol versioning and like compatibility? Like, is it possible that somehow IPFS changes that Ceramic is incompatible with it?
Well, I don't think so. At this point, it would probably be a question of, again, that would be a better question for Ceramic. But I guess like you could still like decide to stay on the previous version, and as long as every nodes are on the version that was working, I think that would be fine. But that would be a better question for them.
In case that happens, Orbis can fork IPFS and use their own IPFS version, right?
So I think it would be Ceramic forking their IPFS usage.
Ceramic, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I don't see why it would be an issue. But yeah, technically, I think that's something that could happen if there was an update that would make like Ceramic nodes like not working anymore. But yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, IPFS has already had multiple versions anyways, right? There's 2 versions of hashes, right? There's V0 and V1. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
I think it's not a huge worry.
Do you know if this uses public subscription in the end on Ceramic, or do you guys use public subscription at all on IPFS to index something extra on your end?
So yeah, that's what I use. That's what I use to be aware of all of the stream IDs that are created on Ceramic. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the backbone of discovering content. Awesome. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is super useful, right? So they have like those 2 topics that you can subscribe to for mainnet and testnet.
Yeah. So we kind of tried doing this ourselves a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind of. Yeah. So like DXGov, like the governance application, we wanted like it was the initial thing would be like mostly a forum. I was talking to Baptiste about this earlier. And like there's a lot more stuff we want to do beyond just a typical forum, but like governance, social stuff. And so we were originally trying it with Ceramic and then using OrbitDB to keep a registry, but yeah, it's like it's kind of complex. And so if we can use Orbis, I think it would be a pretty cool solution for this.
Yeah, basically that's how I see it. I think so. This is going to be an issue for like many developers. I think to have like this very strong, like this was very efficient like query times to query subgraphs, and at some point, like the graph, for example, is going to support Ceramic. As long as they don't do it, we kind of need to offer this service to developers ourselves to get the network effect growing. But so basically, what I like is that Orbis as a company, we can kind of like offer this like querying service to developers building on top of Orbis, where we can give them access to all of the Orbis posts or reactions or groups or decentralized messages that have been identified on the network. But at some point, if developers don't necessarily trust the Orbis querying system, they can build their own thing and keep on using the Orbis protocol by building streams using our schemas and this sort of thing, which I think is a super cool experience. Was initially, I think most developers are going to be using our own querying system, because that would be a lot of work to actually build it yourself. But if someone wanted to go very deep, they could do it themselves, and I think that's something super exciting.
Yeah, even that, like, the way of building things, I think, is quite similar to how we approach things. So I think it could be a very good match for, not wanting people to be reliant on DXDAO, not wanting people to be reliant on Orbis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I have a question, like, what's sort of like the value capture models of sort of like Orbis as like moving forward? Have you thought of this, or is sort of like the goal right now just to? Yeah.
So the way I view it is that, so using Orbis is going to be free. You shouldn't have transaction fees for people to react on something or to post something. I think that at some point, we don't necessarily want to rush it. Our main priority is to focus on user adoption and product market fit. But at some point, I think it could make sense for Orbis to have its own governance model. And the way this governance model would work is basically it would govern the schemas that Orbis is using as a protocol, right? And those schemas are extremely important because, for example, when you send a decentralized message to someone using Orbis, maybe I can share my screen again. Give me a minute to show it. Basically, so on Orbis, we wanted to have this experience where you could DM something to someone, right? And so, but when you DM something, you want it to be decentralized because you don't necessarily want a centralized entity. Let me share my screen again. Yeah, so basically when you DM someone, you don't want to have only one company be able to like own this data, even if it's encrypted, because that means that if you leave your application, you're kind of going to leave all of your decentralized message away. So we wanted to build this within Orbis, but if everything is decentralized, you still don't want those direct messages to be readable for everyone. So the way it works is that every DM that you send, so this is like this user here send a DM to another user, and this DM in Ceramic looks like this, right? So it's this encrypted content that only those two addresses here and here can actually decrypt, right? And all of the other people reading those strings are not going to be able to decrypt it. And the way it works is basically it's built on something that's named LEET protocol, which is a sort of decentralized encryption system that is super useful for this kind of applications. And so this is embedded within our schemas, right? So the schema for this string, for this type of stream, for example, would be that each encrypted message object needs to have an encrypted string object and triple an encrypted symmetric key and the access control condition that should follow this specific structure. But if at some point, maybe in a few years, LEET might have a competitor, right? And this competitor might want to be integrated in Orbis, because if at some point we have tens of millions of users and a huge volume of these direct messages being exchanged using the protocol, that would create a lot of value for them if there was actually like some, if the messages were encrypted using their protocol and not with LEET protocol for anymore. So this protocol might want to push an update to our schema to be able to support this new encryption system. And that would be made using governance, right? Which is, I think, the thing that is going to, give value to the whole like governance concept for Orbis, is that by governing the schema, you can kind of allow like new integration to the protocol. You can also allow at some point decentralized moderation, right? I think that to have, safe and usable social network experience, you need to have some sort of moderation, just to at least to remove spams and some sort of like illegal content in some countries. But to do moderation, you don't want one company to do it. Otherwise, that creates some centralized issue that we have today. So moderation being done via decentralized governance is something that we would explore at some point. So it's probably the capture value is probably going to come from running our upgrading the schema via governance and probably via decentralized content moderation as well. But also maybe by, so because Orbis is going to be fully decentralized, the way to access Orbis data isn't necessarily going to be only via the Orbis website domain, right? There will be like tens or hundreds of different UI for it. But we suspect that if we build like good user experience to run our own protocol, we might have a lot of users that end up using our own product, and that's probably something that you can monetize as well, right? So for example, on Orbis, every users, they can join and use a verified NFT as their profile picture. And sometimes you will see someone joining with a new PFP that you like a lot, and you will be wondering from which collection it is. And so, it isn't a very big gap in saying, okay, instead of just looking at those NFTs, maybe you can also buy them within Orbis, and Orbis could get a commission out of this. So you offer a new service to users, but you can also get a cut out of this. So I think you can monetize both at the protocol level and at the front end level, but both are things that we're not necessarily fully thinking about right now.
Do you think the tech is ready for token gated channels or token gated communities?
Yeah, that works already. So we have this system using Lit, for example, and in the first version of Orbis, you can already create a group and have all of the posts shared in a specific channel be gated. So it's going to look exactly like the direct message example that I shared. So the post is going to be created on Ceramic, but the content itself will be encrypted. And except that the rule to decrypt the content, the access control condition is not going to be based on specific addresses, but it's going to be based on whether or not you own a specific NFT, for example. So you could say, okay, if you own a CryptoPunk, for example, then you can have access, you can decrypt all of the content that are being shared in this specific channel. So group admins could already do it today using Orbis.
Would it be possible to open it for custom logic by admins, or is it a fixed thing by Orbis?
Yeah. No, the access control conditions could be anything. I think the issue is not necessarily going to be Orbis here. It's more going to be Lit protocol, right? So Lit for now has this set of logic that you need to use. And when you want to use a new one, at least it was the case a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if they have updated it here, but they kind of need to add it themselves to their system, right? But basically it can be based on any on-chain condition, right? So for example, at some point to test, I wanted to have the proof of humanity contract be integrated in Orbis so that you could decide to encrypt a post, and that only people verified on proof of humanity could actually be able to decrypt it. And in less than 24 hours, they just added this new contract to their system, and now it was working. So basically, if you had a very custom contract that wouldn't necessarily fit the ERCs that are known today, we could just DM the Lit protocol team and they would add it to their system. And then using the Orbis UI, you could add those access control conditions yourself.
Maybe also I want to add something on top of what Ross shared on the message. You can select as a developer also the context that you want to showcase the data. So basically you can select a specific context where you only the people looking at your interface will see the contents. Or you can say, I want the context of all the data from any posts referring to this context. So for example, an NFT marketplace, let's see OpenSea, LuxRare, and any others, on the same collection on NFT, you can see the same comments on all of them. And this is also what is cool about Ceramic.
And also, is it possible for the admins to be controlled by smart contract functions? We do not want to have single points of failure and allow for such fragility. We want for admins to be Ethereum addresses that or smart contracts that are controlled by the DAO through on-chain governance, not EOA wallets.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm pushing to the Ceramic team, but for now it doesn't work, right? So there is a very early support for multisigs, but it's not finalized yet. But at some point, that's something that I'm pushing. So at some point, it should be possible to create streams using smart contracts, hopefully, or at least maybe have a workaround to make it possible. But for now, it's still based a lot on EOA. So that's the only issue so far that we could say about Ceramic. But so for multisig, they have an early support for multisig. So technically it could work. You could have a multisig. So the thing with Ceramic is that you join by signing a message. And because multisigs are smart contracts, you don't have this very raw sign message function. there is an EIP that has now been adopted. I believe that all of the like Gnosis multisig safes, for example, that can sort of like replicate this signing message action, which creates a transaction on the Ethereum. I mean, on the blockchain that the multisig is. But I think that's the thing that they're not fully integrated with. But hopefully in a few weeks, you should be able to like join Orbis using a multisig, and as this multisig be able to like write streams and share like posts, etc. But for now, it's not, at least at launch, it's not going to be fully supported.
Nice. I mean, even like hearing out that you know that already, that it's a need and you're working on it is good enough.
Cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Impressive.
Yeah, decent tales.
Thanks a lot. Glad you like
Yeah,
it.
thanks for joining. So I think like I'll post here like the Telegram group that Nathan opened with you guys, and I think we will continue the conversation there. And I think like I see a couple of verticals like to interact, and I think one of them is Ross, who's leading the sort of like the governance team and building sort of like the next iterations of our governance platform. So that's kind of like one vertical. Another vertical that could be interesting is DX Ventures, which is sort of like the investment arm of DXDAO, but it's like sort of like what we focus on is investing or giving a grant in a way to projects and products that we're going to use and that are progressing decentralization. So I think in general this very much fits with what we're doing, and then we'll discuss internally. And yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to add anything else. We can continue in the chat, and then maybe you guys could come also to another call in the future. And yeah.
Yeah, sure. And I will share the developer document, the very early developer documentation that I will have maybe by the end of the week with Ross. So like if we can probably get started on those kind of things.
Yeah. Augusto, did you want to speak? Were you very polite?
No. I just I typed it.
All right. Well, thanks, Baptiste. Charles, you're welcome to stay. We're going to continue talking about basically. Well, the next topic is just like the New York City Crypto Week. We had some of the people in attendance, Sky and Chris. Yeah.
Cool.
Sky,
so
do you
thanks.
wanna...
Yeah. Thank you very much for having us. That was a pleasure, and we can definitely keep the conversation going.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks. Bye everyone.
Yeah, Scott, you want to take us away? Tell us how is it sunny New York according to the Scottish people in the chat?
Yeah, so I guess I haven't like written a lot of this down, but I think there's a lot of good things. So I'll try to share a summary, and then maybe John was there for a bit and Chris also, but so it's kind of funny because the entire the reason all this stuff happened in New York originally this time was because that was when NFT NYC was, which was like bigger than it was the prior year, even though the markets are down and stuff, but everything was already planned, and there's it's probably the biggest number of speakers and things, but because that was happening, there's a lot of people that were coming to New York around that. And what happened is, and I don't know if this was coincidence, but there was obviously ETH NYC, which is a ETH Global Hackathon, which was also this weekend. And then all of these other events that I would say I was more interested in, and probably the people here, like DAO related events, also popped up around this week of people being in New York. And so there was like this DAO, like Ethereal Assembly is actually put on by Consensus Mesh, which is like their arm that's doing investments, and they have Tachyon Accelerator. So they have like all of these groups and companies that are being created, and many of those I think need to be or want to become DAOs, and Consensus has never really been a DAO or had a DAO focus, and so they are trying to get more involved in the DAO conversation and share the learnings and things. And then there was a DAO NYC event, which was mainly organized by Tally and a few others, which was a really good crowd. A lot of the panels were around topics that we're all familiar with. It seemed like VCs and some, sponsors kind of led many of the panels. Then there was also DAO Planet, which we saw DAO Planet in Denver, and it's kind of an upstart DAO community. It has a different group of people and kind of that are organizing it, and maybe different types of communities that we may not be used to in like the more regular DAO space that we've been a part of. So it actually, there's new people and new ideas and a different angle there. And then there was also this Fund in the Commons event that was put on by Protocol Labs, which they continue to make these like amazing events, at least amazing production of events. Like this event was at the New York Historical Society, which is like this crazy museum event space, and they rented out the entire thing for like 2 days. The attendance on the Saturday that John and I went was not as wide because it was a Saturday as the Friday was, but I wasn't able to go to the one on Friday. But they captured a lot of good content, and I think that's all already on YouTube, which is pretty amazing. How it was like captured and streamed and cut into YouTube like the next day, and that whole thing was. And then it was also co-organized by Gitcoin. So that whole thing was based on funding the commons. So like public goods and all of the things revolved around that. So just some of the takeaways from these things that I had, and I wrote some of them here on the agenda. But there's like, someone gave a number of like, there's 80,000 DAOs that are in existence. And these are obviously from small little groups of people in Discord channels or Telegrams to like actual real DAOs and things. But there's lots of people out there in the DAO space. And one of the things with the Ethereal Assembly discussions were a lot of people that were there were basically raising concerns about the DAO space. And part of it is many of the people are very new to DAOs. Many people, many of these DAOs aren't actually really DAOs, and there's problems that come with that. There's many problems about, there's so much going on that if you just like are unorganized and you don't do good time management, people get sucked into like, and this isn't just DAOs, this is crypto in general. Like if you are on Discord or Telegram like 24 hours a day and you never sleep, you can get sucked into all these communities and you will become burnt out, right? Then there's like this topic of participation, which I quickly turned that discussion into, Elon's famous word of initiation, because everyone was kind of trying to figure out how to get more people to participate in DAOs. And it's basically, participation is not what you want. What you want in DAOs, what we've learned, I think, more is that you want initiative, right? You don't need everyone to participate. You want people to pay attention, and then you need people to take initiative to like do things and help push those things through the DAO. And then there's a lot of questions about legal, which these are questions that DXDAO, I think, has as well. And we have some, given that recent post on the forum about our DAO council position and exploring legal, topics related to legal, whether it's in the US or other things, or what DAOs can do with legal entities and things like that. A lot of people have these major concerns. Where should they have legal entities? Where should they be? All that kind of stuff. My DAO, which is a big organizer of DAO Planet, is Adam's Adam, the Thriller, his project with DAO entities in the Marshall Islands, and then like how to govern within DAOs, whether delegation is good, whether now with soulbound token paper and people becoming more familiar with things that are not just liquid token governance, people start to ask more and more, what are the best ways to get good governors and do governance in your DAOs? And that's where reputation and potentially your Web3 profile or your proven contributions in the space, that becomes a lot more up into the front of people in these discussions. And that's where DXDAO has the ability to share ideas and experience with things like that, with on-chain provable reputation earned through contribution to the DAO. And so those are all like lots of topics. DXDAO, like a lot of times I would sit there, and I'm sure, and Chris and I were sitting there also at the DAO NYC, and there's these panels where like people are trying to work through addressing these problems and these burnout and how to organize and how to onboard new people into community and all this stuff. And this is all stuff that obviously DXDAO has been doing for like 2 years. I know I'm going on, this is a little bit long-winded, but DXDAO has been figuring this stuff out for over 2 years and has a lot of knowledge in this space. And we have this knowledge in, lots of our heads. We have some of it in our DX docs, which is great. We share some in articles and on Twitter. But given how this lack of information is not in the hands of most people in the DAO space, probably, I think we have an opportunity to get this, out there from the DXDAO voice more and more, whether it's the ENS example of using, DAOs owning the actual front ends, whether it's people ops, contributor experience, whether it's how to eliminate scammers or how to very, very quickly filter scammers from coming into your community, and the way we use trial periods and things like everything DXDAO is basically a standout to like, and it has experience solving so many of these issues that most other DAOs are like trying to figure out. And so the question is like, how should we share this stuff? When should we share it? Why should we share it? Will grow awareness of DXDAO. It will bring new probably contributors that are interested in participating into our space. And so we plan to hopefully do more, find other people that are also interested. And so one example is with the way we use ENS, but we've been sharing how we use ENS for a long time and still no other DAOs do it. So like, we could share that. So the idea is maybe team up with other people that have broader or other outside reaches, such as IPFS team or the Protocol Labs, and potentially Pinata, and basically do maybe a case study or co-written articles and things and then maybe a Twitter space with their communities. And so the idea is to take a lot of the maybe highlight, we'll pinpoint maybe a handful of things that DXDAO has really done well and accelerated and focus on getting those pieces of information out more into the space. And in this space, it's a big mess. Everything's all over the place. And so there are some organizations like MetaGov, who's doing like research on DAOs, this smart contract research forum, which I would recommend everyone checking out. It's called SCURF for short. Rich Brown, who used to be Maker governance coordinator, and then this guy Eugene, I think, are leading this. And the idea is it could be a place where all DAOs and communities can come to this place, and it won't just be like the centralized database, but it will be a place where this information, which we have in our community or other communities, can make sure that there's a copy of this information or a reference to it in this centralized place where people can come, and depending on the topic, they can learn, and then they can leave, from that database, and they can end up in, DX docs or something to learn about a certain activity or initiative that DXDAO is doing. So overall, it was like, everyone's talking about DAOs. The next time like a year from now, I think, people are going to be coming to New York around DAO NYC rather than NFT NYC. And we have of all the topics and problems in the DAO space, DXDAO, is I think a lot of us are very bullish on the experience and things that DXDAO's already been working through in this space. So it's great to see. We just need to do a better job of communicating that out to the space. And the question is, how does that then help DXDAO and DXD holders and our products? Is as we do that, I think it will just become more and more clear that DXDAO is leading at like the more decentralized end of the spectrum in the DAO space, and is getting better and better, and hopefully gets quicker and quicker and gets more contributors, and that will lead to awareness and use of our products and stuff. Like, our name is a little tricky. Like, people know Swapper and they're like, oh, DXDAO, what is DXDAO doing? And, people mix it up with DYDX and stuff, and it's like random letters, yet they know the products that we've made. Once you say, oh yeah, that Swapper was made by DXDAO, then they're like, oh, that's awesome. Like, oh, okay, I'll look more into DXDAO. And so there's a little, bringing the brands together and making sure people, maybe making it more clear, like the products that people are using is like part of DXDAO and made by DXDAO. It could be one thing as well. But that's like a long-winded summary of some thoughts.
Yeah, I think, like, I highly agree with some of Sky's points. I think like we're really ages ahead of everyone else in terms of just the core thinking of governance. And I think like the thoughts of like governance 2.0 we did like a year and a half ago. These things are brilliant, and we just need to make sure that we're collaborating on these things and getting every opportunity to speak. And I think I saw a lot of people are going to be talking at DevCon, which is important. And the Twitter space that we did the other week, that's awesome. I don't know if we can, maybe do more Twitter spaces, maybe talk more about just governance conversations.
Well, we do have Operation Decentralization, which is a Twitter space focused, hopefully regular event that we can start to talk more about these additional, just highlighted things, I think, in addition to our community calls.
So let's do that. I don't know. I think it should be weekly, but I don't know. That might be too much. And try to invite more people. You had like the Element Finance who built like an interesting governance system that has some parallels to what we're doing. Just like invite.
The one crazy thing, and we should, I think that people here in the DXDAO community, like unless maybe some people have issues, but have been scenarios where people were feeling maybe burnt out. But overall, I think the DXDAO community has treated that topic quite well. Like, we have, hopefully there's people you can talk to, and there's different or actions you can take if you are feeling burnt out. But this is like apparently a major issue in the DAO space. And I was sharing that, like, in our community and some of the other communities I'm in, like, and we've been doing DAO stuff for like a few years now. So maybe we learned, and in the beginning there weren't that many DAOs, so you had time to figure out how to work in the DAO space. Nowadays there's like so many DAOs that, like, everyone that was burnt out like joined DAOs like 4 weeks ago. And so it's kind of like maybe it takes time and experience in the space, but if we can, we should really pay attention to that. We don't want people to be burnt out. We have talked about ways to like make sure that we can all like hang out and chat and do like non-work things with community members as well. There are some like social tools to like do goal-oriented journeys together, which is like a way to build connections while not specifically focus on like your work and stuff. So I think, I don't know how, like, even unconsciously DXDAO has tried to make it so that onboarding experience and current contributors don't get burnt out and can allocate their focus and time. And they have, we've had very structured proposals that we're doing. This is what we're going to focus on. Obviously, we don't always achieve everything in our proposals and stuff, but that helps. That structure, I think, helps people allocate where their attention is rather than just being overwhelmed by like all the things that are happening in DXDAO. Not everyone has to do everything in DXDAO, and that is not what happens in many other DAO communities apparently. And so that's something that's been really good in DXDAO community that we I don't know if we can share that or not, but we could we could make some, we could try to share it to help other people or attract new contributors, I guess. So
yeah, I don't know any other topics. Like there's like last week there was this whole issue with Namecheap. Like a bunch of front ends got essentially exploited, like Curve or like sorry Convex Finance and a bunch of others, and it's because of like someone was compromised inside Namecheap, and then I kind of took that I don't know, that chance to sort of like shill some of the stuff that DXDAO was doing, and with like basically IPFS, ENS and IPFS websites, and I think this is something we can also be like thought leaders in, and we have that video, which is great. So just
we have that video, we have that article, but that alone is not enough. And so what I was speaking about just this weekend with is Protocol Labs, which created IPFS, like they mainly don't know that like DXDAO is like one of the best examples of a DAO using a tool that they built, right? So not only do they want more DAOs doing what DXDAO does, which is good for IPFS, but also the DAO space and the ENS, but they should have a desire to help us share that message much, much wider. And obviously Protocol Labs and IPFS have money, they have events. I think getting their attention or framing it so that this is like an amazing use case of their tool that a DAO is using, and then having them help us spread that message through into their community, and then hopefully wider than that is a we're going to try to do that. And then cross communicate, like cross community sharing of knowledge and use cases, I think is what we're going to do.
I don't know any other topics we want to discuss. I mean, we're a bit over time.
I guess we're right over time, but just lastly on, since the most immediate thing is Paris, we have a sheet with people with DXDAO contributors that are attending. Want to make sure we have that as accurate as possible, so we can know who's going to be there. We ideally can have a DXDAO kind of meetup as early as possible in the week, maybe a dinner or something, to get everyone who hasn't met each other to meet each other, and then also align and come up with like a plan for everyone for the week, or alignment and strategies. And then there's the event, and so the event that we are having with Gnosis Chain and GitPoap, and I guess now potentially Gnosis Safe is looking to get involved as well. We want to make sure everyone from DXDAO is obviously already included, and then we can figure out how many people we can invite outside of that. And so we have an Eventbrite, we have things, we haven't shared it widely, but we are going to also be able to hand invite people, that the different DXDAO devs and community people and stuff, people that we're talking to that we want to hand invite. We can make sure they get the direct invite and password and stuff, so we can really invite everyone that we want to be at this event. And it would be a great place for all DXDAO people to catch up with everyone that we are working with.
Very cool.
Nylon, I saw that you have Hackers also on the agenda.
Yeah, you want to talk about it?
Yeah. We have the website design, the micro site. That's how Keenan and Dirk call it. And well, thank you for the banners and something that they share with me. We have only one core organizer confirmed so far. We share the presentation PDF also on the more information for hackers. And yeah, it's just a microsite, right? With the basic information, with the link to the application. It would be good if you can guys check it out. I'm planning to announce it soon. I mean, I'm just waiting now for Ali to get back to me to finish the application form, and then we can start spreading the word. And I guess we should coordinate on that, right? Making sure that everyone is going to be sharing it on Twitter and other stuff.